Hi there, and welcome to a Studio Calico video with me, Lisa Spangler. Today I'm going to be sharing a technique for making solid color watercolor backgrounds that's really easy. I'll show you all my secrets that I've learned. And to get started, I went ahead and made a card out of watercolor paper, and then I cut this template, just leaving a little border. I didn't really measure the template versus the card. This is a 4-bar card, but it just leaves a little room where we're going to have this white border, and I think that sets it off really nicely. And I'll show you why we need the border in a minute. But I just traced the template lightly with a pencil, and then since we're working with watercolor and we're going to be painting right up to the edge of this, sometimes the lead from the pencil will get trapped underneath the watercolor, so I like to erase it to make it even lighter. So that's what I did there. And now I'll show you one of my secrets. This is a cutting mat that came with my mixer, and I just chopped it to make it smaller, to make it more portable and card size. And now I'm taking some masking tape. This is artist's masking tape, so it doesn't pull your paper as much as like washi tape or some other tapes. And I'm just putting this along the line that we made from the template. So just putting that right on there and smoothing it down. And I have to say that you can find this tape at art stores or craft stores, and it's really worth it to go ahead and get that. And the one tip here is to make sure you overlap the corners like I did here, so that the paint doesn't like seep under the corner. Now my next tip is to use the biggest brush that you have. So I have this number 30 round brush on the right that I love, this one. This wasn't that expensive. I got it on sale for about $10. And then I have this flat number 8 brush. Both of these are like my biggest brushes, but I prefer that 30 round brush because it holds a ton of paint. Now, my next tip is to use a cup or like a little palette or something to mix up the color that you want. So here I'm going to mix up like a peachy kind of corally color, and you want to have enough paint to cover your whole background that you're going to be making. It's always good to make a little bit extra. So here I am just mixing that peachy color. And then I like to get a scrap piece of the watercolor paper and then like test it to see what the color's like. And with watercolor, if you want it to be lighter, just add more water. So I'm just like playing around here until I get it like how I want it. So that looks pretty good right there. So now on to painting the background, and we're just going to get that piece that we had taped down before and then go ahead and just put the paint on liberally. I like to start in the upper right corner and then, the upper left corner, and then just go ahead and put it all around. So here's that paint that we pre-mixed, and like I said, this is a big tip to have enough paint. So go ahead and load your brush. Here I am like loading it up with as much paint as I can get on there. And then you just kind of put it on there and go for it. And the reason that I love these big brushes like this is because since it's holding enough of the color, you don't have to worry about going back and adding color later and getting like weird watercolor blooms happening and other things. But that's it. And I made this light on purpose because I want to stamp that bicycle on top of it. But we'll get to that next. So now this is completely dry, and you want to make sure it is completely dry. And then you can go ahead and peel off this tape. So the trick here is to peel it away from the paper. So I'm slowly peeling it away from the paper. And I have noticed where if it does like rip a little bit, it usually doesn't happen. But if it does, just grab the other end and start using that end instead of the one that you were working with, and then sometimes you can save it. A glue stick can also like hide little tears if you catch it in time. But so here I had wrapped it around the back. But once again, you just peel it away from the paper. So peeling away from the paper, and there you have it. It's a nice smooth finish. The paper isn't warped since it was taped down. And now you can go ahead and erase the rest of those lines. And like I said, sometimes it seems to depend on the pigment in the watercolor. Different colors work differently, but sometimes the lead gets trapped under the watercolor and you can't really erase it. I kind of think it looks nice even like that. So then you can just go ahead and get a bone folder and score that. I wanted to add too that I like to leave the paper flat. Like you can score it, but don't fold it yet when you're doing your painting, and that helps keep it nice and flat and keep it from warping too. So here I am, I've just got the bone folder, and if you've never done this before, you just use the side of it like that and you give it a really good press, and it really helps make the crease in your paper. And this is a little bit thicker so you can see it's popping up, but see how flat the paper is? It didn't warp, and that's because we had taped it. So to finish off the card, I stamped the "I think you're really great" message and the bicycle, and then I stamped the wheels, and I apologize because I thought I had my camera turned on when I was doing all that, but it turns out that I didn't. So I thought I'd just show you on a piece of scrap paper how I stamped the wheels. So I just loaded some paint right on the stamp, and then I just went ahead and stamped it. And you can stamp it off and get different looks. I think this looks really cool, especially when you put it over the painted background. So I'll show you again. Just like mush some paint around on your stamp. And then, so you can see it's pretty well coated. And then just go ahead and stamp it. That one came out really good. And you can just practice this a little bit to see how it works. So then to finish up the card, I used a tiny brush and I painted some little flowers just freehand and some grass for the bike. And then I added that strip of paper and some enamel dots to the wheels. I think that adds just a little bit of dimension. And these flowers are really easy to paint. It's just 4 little circles for the petals, and then after it was dry, I dotted in the flower center. And then for a last little detail, I went over the wheelie with a dark coral peachy color. So thanks so much for joining me today, and I hope these tips and tricks help you with your watercolor backgrounds.